So I'd like to start things by sharing a commercial that has recently aired across North America, and it's a beautiful sign when you have partners that show their love, and this was a gift that IBM gave us. It's been broadcast around the world right now.
What if we could turn trash into money? The Plastic Bank is doing just that by exchanging plastic for digital credits, redeemable for everything from food to education, powered by IBM blockchain. When you understand the potential of new technology, you can put smart to work.
So ocean plastic is something that's been on our mind for a while. And we've been looking at technology, ocean plastic, and how they fit together. And it's amazing if you think, if we filled this entire room with plastic, that's the amount of plastic entering the ocean every couple of minutes. And it's insane. But we call it a plastic problem. But the irony is it's not a plastic problem. It's a human problem. And human problems are things that we can solve, and I'm a huge believer that they're things that we can solve with technology. And we started to look at how do we solve this ocean plastic problem. We looked at a very specific concept, and that as much as we can talk about scooping plastic out of the ocean, that's really the last thing we have to do. And the approach that we talk starts with a childhood metaphor. That if you walk into a kitchen and a sink is overflowing, water pouring onto the floor, and all you have is a bucket and a mop and a wrench, what do you do first? And the answer is simply, you turn off the tap. And when it comes to ocean plastic, we started to look at how do we turn off the tap? And how do we do it in a self-sustaining way? And when we started to look at the root cause of ocean plastic, where is it coming from? How is it happening to such a degree? We uncovered that about 80% of ocean plastic actually starts in developing countries where they have almost no waste management systems. And it's simply common practice to throw the plastic away. But when we throw plastic away, it has to go somewhere, and all too often, away means the ocean. This picture's from Peru, and this is common where plastic gets discarded onto the riverbeds, and as soon as it rains, it's just flown right into the rivers. This is Baseco in the Philippines, and Philippines, as well as the rest of Southeast Asia, is one of the worst contributors to ocean plastic. And this is Haiti. And all too often, these scenes around the world are more common than most people think. And the irony is that plastic is not garbage. Plastic is actually pound for pound worth more than steel. It's just the way that people perceive the value. So when we started to look at how do we stop the root cause, we really looked at the paradigm of how do we make plastic into money? How do we change the paradigm that plastic is not waste, plastic is value? And the very first thing we uncovered when we look at these regions where the ocean plastic's coming from, where there's such a huge degree of poverty, one of the realities is when someone lives in abject poverty, they cannot care about the environment. They cannot see beyond surviving for the day. And any human just trying to survive, it is impossible for them to be looking beyond that. And we started to look at how does ocean plastic and poverty fit together, where plastic itself could be a means for universal income to get even the most abject person out of poverty. And this is what we started to do. We looked at the systems around the world, and it's ironic that there is these foundations for informal recycling, and they're called waste pickers and scavengers, and it's demeaning. So we started to look at why. Why can't we put the collector first? Why can't we have a social plastic? A plastic that transfers its value into the hands of the collectors. And we started to look at how do we do this? How do we dignify recycling around the world? How do we guarantee that the people collecting plastic from these programs are actually getting what's promised? And this is where we started to look at a blockchain solution of how do we bring trust to the world of doing good? How do we bring transparency to a supply chain? And how do we have it that if a company has to use plastic, that it can be and should be a social plastic that's improving the lives of the people who collect it while stopping it from entering the ocean. And the two things that we looked at when we started to look at how do we do this sustainably, one, it can't just be a one-off campaign. It has to be something that can go ongoing, a root cause, and something that brings dignity and stability to the world of recycling, which can completely change the paradigm of how we see plastic. So through our programs, we're currently in Haiti, Philippines, Indonesia, expanding globally, and we have a blockchain solution with the end goal that anyone with a smartphone and a scale can run one of our programs, where we set up these social plastic collection ecosystems where someone will go out, collect the plastic from their community, bring it to one of our branches where it's run by a locally owned and trained operator. The plastic is sorted by type, by color, and it's weighed, and someone's given a value. And different types of plastic have different value. And when we can absolutely reward the amount of plastic that comes in, it can be stored in an application. So we have our own asset-backed token where in dangerous regions where how do you trust that the cash is going to the right person? How does someone save to pay for education? This is what we can now do through recycling. So the basic necessities that someone needs, whether it's to pay for food, education, healthcare, this now all can be done through recycling. And we start to look at how do we solve these first mile problems? Because it's ironic when we look at how do you have financial inclusion for the world's poor? You know, what a lot of people overlook is when we introduce these programs, it's not just that someone's using an application for the first time, they're using a phone for the first time. They're writing their name for the first time. So when we talk about financial inclusion, it's so important that we actually look at the different user types that we have, and that there's a way to start having the bottom of the pyramid becomes contributors to society, but also really contributors to ideas, contributors to the local communities. And to me, I'm so inspired that technology is a way that we can empower people to create that change. And again, through our programs, we look at how do we have these first mile solutions. So what we do in our membership, we actually provide someone with their first phone when they become a member of the Plastic Bank. So one of our community members gets a phone which gives them access to digital savings, which then for the first time have a way that they can actually save for the things that they need. And again, a lot of these areas that we have, there's so many of these first mile problems that are a necessity. So in Haiti, 75% of people don't have access to energy. So our locations provide solar power, which then provides solar power phone charging, which now enables a community to at least always have a way that someone can have access to a phone, access to communication, connectivity. And we can start to look at how, again, does plastic get seen as more than waste, but really an opportunity to provide financial inclusion, an opportunity to have these communities become equipped with technology. So with our programs, again, we keep looking community by community, what's needed to bring this at scale. There's certain towns that are out of reach, so we have mobile collection centers. And we, with our plastic, we sell this plastic to some of the world's largest companies so that they can use it instead of new plastic, with the goal that eventually these billion-dollar companies can have enough recycled plastic that they trust the supply chain to stop using new plastic. And what's amazing too, we look at it again, it can't just be campaigns. It can't be companies saying, I cleaned a beach, I did my thing. We need to find ways that a beach never needs to be cleaned again. And so this is a town in Haiti where Henkel is one of our large clients, where they sponsor these communities to have a root cause initiative where all of these towns become recycling communities. And the solar power that we bring in to equip the technology, as you see here, is actually outside of the community where it becomes a community center, which allows us to have solar power lighting as part of the community. And we keep looking at, again, how do we treat plastic as a community-first supply chain? And these are programs that we're scaling all the way around the world, and every program's different. This is in the Philippines, this is Indonesia, and really anywhere in the world with abundance of poverty and abundance of plastic waste is where these programs go. And this becomes the amazing thing again with the blockchain supply chain, where we can start looking at these areas of need and we can start proving the promise of doing good. So all the plastic that we recycle goes into products. Henkel is a huge client of ours which uses the social plastic in their products and is trying to phase out the amount that they use so eventually it can be 100% social plastic. Marks and Spencer's is another client again where they look at not their own products, but they're a supplier of products. And if they have to supply products made of plastic, how can they ensure that it's made of social plastic where they have a preferred supplier program for people using social plastic? And Shell Energy was another client again where they look at how can they offset the amount of plastic they're using. And these are programs that we had where with these water bottles, every single bottle prevented 2 kilos of plastic from entering the environment. And it becomes this amazing thing when we can have proof of a social good delivery. And when it comes to blockchain, it's been a huge part of our application. We had the wonders of having IBM work with us to look at how do we not just create a widget or a token, but an entire ecosystem where our application works for a collector to have a digital wallet, for someone running our branches to have real-time inventory, a digital wallet, and a way for real-time tracking of the social impact. And it's been amazing when I look at the world of blockchain, and I was recently asked at a conference, what's the biggest thing slowing down the mass adoption of blockchain? And my honest answer is the average blockchain enthusiast is explaining blockchain like an asshole. And it's really weird because there's so many people over-explaining blockchain to the average person. And at a technology conference, it is fine to go into every single detail, use case study, everything. But when it comes to the average person, the way that we get trust is having people explain it simply, where the average person really just needs to know it's a digital ledger, it's a trust stamp, and that's it. And we need to start almost disassociating these crazy cryptocurrencies as blockchain, where blockchain is a part of how those cryptocurrencies work, but it's not the only thing. I mean, I am a huge believer, and same with our own token. We have an asset-backed token where it doesn't need to be fluctuating, it doesn't need to be a theoretical value. When we can bring in trust to the world that someone sees blockchain just as a trust stamp, that's how we can have a world where different fintech solutions, different, really any kind of technology, but when the average person sees blockchain, all they think is trust. And this is what we need to do, explain it so simply that people experience trust, they feel trust. So if I could have one ask for anyone in this world, when they start talking about blockchain outside of the high-tech world and just to the average person, that we really just simplify it, that blockchain becomes a symbol of trust. Because for us, blockchain is how we prove a delivery of the promise of good. And I think the world can be so optimistic if we just bring back trust. So let's create a world of trust. Thank you.